Hello, everyone. My name is Katie Ziegler. I am the Director of Communications and Social Media for the 40 West Arts District. I'm excited to have you all here this morning. I am happy to be teaching a class on art for the internet, tips, tricks, and the need to know about how to use TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter to help your art business or showcase your art online. Couple of things today. So first, I definitely have a deck, a slideshow, a PowerPoint presentation I can give you, and I can talk at you for an hour about that. And I'm happy to take any questions during that time, whether it's in the chat room or if you want to use a little raise hand feature, if you have that on your version of Zoom, or if you just want to unmute and interrupt and say something, please feel free. I think we get nervous about doing that on these Zoom calls, but it's part of the nature of the game. Absolutely welcome to chime in if you have questions. Then, if you'd like at any time, we can also do a Q&A. We can take a look at what you guys actually already have for those of you who have social media accounts and are looking for some direct feedback, or we can call it. So does that sound kind of like a good plan for the day? Seeing some head nods. Awesome. All right, and so hi to those who just entered. We're going to get started here. I'm going to start off with our PowerPoint presentation on the art of the social internet and how to get your art business online. I will introduce to you a few topics, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end, but feel free to chime in. I have 4 monitors open, so I can see all of you, I can see all of your comments, I can see my presentation, and I can see the time because one of my monitors is just dedicated to being a clock. So I hope I won't miss anything, but who knows, sometimes I get talking and I stop paying attention. But with that, we'll go ahead and get started. All right, how is that for folks? Can everybody see that? For those of you who are leaving your cameras on, head nods are appreciated. You don't have to leave your camera on though. Certainly don't feel obligated, especially if it is messing with your internet at all. All right, so with that, welcome to 40 West Arts District's 40 West Connects, Art for the Internet, how to get your art business online. We're going to be talking about all of the ways that you as an artist can share your art with people on the internet, build a community, build a network, and potentially grow some sales out of that, right? Because this is not only a social tool, but it's a marketing tool as well. So today's structure, we're going to talk about first and foremost why social media matters. I think you all know why social media matters, but it's always important to go over what the heck we're doing this for. I know we can all get a little bogged down with constantly being on the Twitter mill. We get frustrated opening our Facebook pages. It can be very difficult if you post something on Instagram and it didn't get as many likes or as comments as you want. And listen, I get it. As a director of social media, sometimes I hate being on social media, and that's okay. That is totally part of the deal here. So we're going to talk about why it matters and remind ourselves why we're doing this. And then we're going to talk about some social platforms that I would recommend you as artists use. We'll talk about some professional artists who are great at marketing themselves online and what they do, and watch a few of their videos and go through their Instagram pages and really see what they have got going on. I'll give you some tips and tricks on building a plan, and then we'll do a little bit of a Q&A where we can talk about what specifically you guys are doing if some folks are willing to share their examples. Also, hello, furry friends. I love to see pets on Zoom. I'm sure at some point one of my 2 cats will show up. I apologize, but I totally love saying hi to your furry friends. All right. So a little bit about me. Again, I'm the Director of Social Media and Communications. Oh, there's my boy at 40 West Arts District. I graduated from the University of Colorado Boulder in 2017 with a degree in film studies. Yes, that's right, film studies. I didn't learn to make movies. I learned to talk about movies, which I think is pretty fun. I'm a Colorado native, so it was really nice to go study under the Colorado School of Film. If any of you are filmmakers, you might know that the idea of home video started with a few of the alumni professors at CU Boulder. And so the idea of us sharing and documenting our lives for the first time is actually a Colorado idea. Before then, movies were reserved for Hollywood and New York. So that's pretty exciting. After that, I was a publisher in Seoul, South Korea. I lived there for around a year. I published at a K-pop entertainment website. So essentially BuzzFeed for K-pop. If you don't know what K-pop is, don't worry about it or go ask a granddaughter. She definitely knows. Currently, I'm a CBCA Leadership Arts alumni, and I spent my 10,000 hours of getting good at something staring at YouTube. So I hope with that, it'll show you guys that I know a little bit about what I'm talking about here. And I also know that it changes very, very, very quickly. So anyone who calls themselves an expert might be an expert, but probably what they really mean is that they're a lifelong learner. The social internet is not that old, and neither am I. And there's a lot more to it than anybody could ever really understand. But we'll try and narrow down what we're doing today. So first things first, here's just why social media matters and why it matters to you. 50% of consumers spend their time and their data and their energy being online. Now, this information comes from the Sprout Social Index in 2020, but specifically it comes from February of 2020. So if you guys remember February 2020, it feels like a long time ago, but that was actually back when we all still could have lives and leave our homes and meet each other in person. And we still were growing our internet usage at a rate of just, it was unparalleled. I mean, Twitter went from an 18-second lifespan, like you'd pay attention to a tweet for about 18 seconds, to 4. Now we've all been stuck at home and on the internet for a full year since then. So I would imagine our social media usage, our social media literacy has increased exponentially. And in fact, of course, gotten probably more difficult for that reason. But it shouldn't be taken for granted. If that's where everyone is, it's probably where you should be also. All right, let's see. So again, the big takeaway, it's not a novel concept, it's the norm. It's okay that it is scary sometimes to be online, but it is where people hang out. It is where they live. It is where they work. It is how they understand their world. And that's totally okay. You know, just the same way you used to go to school and hang out with your friends at your favorite local bars, or of course your favorite galleries, and we're all looking to do that again. It's important to understand that some communities, especially powerful ones, are completely online. So meeting customers or art buyers or art lovers there in those spaces is just as key as getting into your favorite galleries and going to your First Friday events. All right, so social media and the brand. All right, if I'm going too fast, by the way, slow me down. You will definitely have these slides after. I'll email them to you, and I'll email you some sources, and I'll talk to you about any links I say, but I know that I can talk fast, so if I'm going too fast, interrupt me. But here's the deal. As an artist online, you are going to also have to put on a marketing hat, which means that your art is also your brand. And potentially you as the artist are your brand. Now, I don't love that, right? I like being Katie, and then I like also that I get to go to my job, and my job is to be the brand representative of 40 West. But I also understand that sometimes as Katie, I am still the brand for 40 West, and every single thing I do online, everything I say online, every time I comment online, whether it's for a local business or just between my friends, I am still in part representing 40 West. And that can be a little bit stressful and a little bit of a struggle, but it just sort of is the nature of the game. Just a second here, my email is trying to open. Nobody emailed me right now, I'm busy. All right. For that reason, when you are starting your social media accounts, it is important to understand that you're going to be putting on a brand. You're going to have to decide how you want the world to see you, whether that is as a political commentator. You're welcome to do so as artists. Your art may be political in nature, and maybe that's the route you want to go through. Whether it is just purely as an aesthetics sort of brand, you want to provide a mood and a tone that is consistent across your artwork. Maybe you have an art movement you're really into, right? Like if I said the Beat Generation, you might know what I'm talking about. You might understand Kerouac and Ginsberg and all of those artists. There's a very specific mood and tone to that art style that can very, very much become a symbol of a brand, right? That can be a label that people understand. They understand the kind of art that goes with it. They kind of understand the kind of people that go with it. And they understand when they enter into it, what it's going to look like. This is the same for you on a personal level. You get to decide what your image looks like, how you talk to the world. This can help elevate you. It can get you involved with communities and plugged into networks of people who would enjoy your art. That could help increase your foot traffic, in which, of course, it could lead to sales. So think about your brand as you think about social media, and every single post, what you want to say. Because if you're not online, like I said, you're missing out. All right. Don't just take it from me. 68% of consumers plan to increase their Facebook usage in the next year. What? When I read that, I couldn't believe it because I hate Facebook and I don't want to be on it anymore. I'll say it again. I don't love being on the social internet, but it's important. Why? Because that's where events happen, right? That's where we get invitations to things like our First Fridays. That's how I can see if my family is safe when they're going through the storms in Texas and how they'll probably check in on me later today, right? That's how I get a lot of news coverage. Now, I'll admit I'm a millennial Gen Zer. I don't have a subscription to the New York Times. I don't get the newspaper. A lot of what I do and how I know about the world around me comes from being on Facebook. So even when I'm like, no, I'm going to do it less, I'm going to be on it less, I'm going to look at it less, every time I'm on it, I am still super engaged with everything I need to know to understand my world and the world around me. And so are your fans. So are the people who will be buying your art. So your goal when thinking about Facebook usage and how much people are online is not to say, oh, they need to get offline and come look at my art. It's to say, great, how do I make sure every time they log on to Facebook, my art is the first thing they look at? Right? Think about this a little bit. How many of you, and you can raise hand, you can write in the comments, how many of you have a Facebook account? Yeah, you all have a Facebook account? All right. How many of you, the first time you get on Facebook, when you open it up, either on your phone or on your laptop, go ahead, just tell me, what's the first thing you check? Your news feed, probably, right? Let's see. If I got on Facebook right now, all right, what's the first thing that comes up? One of the groups I'm in. Yeah, I'm on my news feed. That's right. And my news feed is going to show me groups I'm in and what the people in those groups are talking about. And it's going to show me, nice, something I care about. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's a post from West Colfax, which is one of the accounts I run. So Facebook's like, hey, you like the information you post online, which is maybe a little self-involved, but it's true. I care about what's going on West Colfax. I tend to check it first. I'm invested. I see some people are saying, I don't check anything particular right away when I get on Facebook. And that's fair. You may not log into Facebook with a specific goal in mind, but these platforms are smart. Never underestimate them. You may not realize you're checking for something in particular, but you absolutely are being told something to look at every time. So if you have a Facebook group that you're involved in that you check regularly, it is probably the first thing that comes up on your feed. And because of that, it's probably the first thing you click on. You don't have to know that's what you're looking for. Facebook knows that's what you're looking for. So when you're thinking about what do I do to get in on that game, think about being in those communities and publishing at a regular rate so that you are the first thing folks see when they open up their Facebook feeds, even if they're not intending to. All right, so again, here's why people get on social media and they follow brands. They want to learn about products or services. They want to stay up to date on news, and they want to find out about promotions or discounts. Not as in all of that, it doesn't say anywhere they want to look at cool stuff. That's because looking at cool stuff should come with a new product or service, an update, or a promotion or discount every single time. So when you are starting to think about how you share your art online, just posting photos of the work you're doing and where it's hanging may not be enough. You may need to be showing your progress on a piece of work. Say I post something on Facebook that says, just started this new sketch with a quick photo of it. And in 2 hours, I come back and I say, here's where I am now. Come back tomorrow to see the completed work. As long as I deliver on actually posting the completed work by the next day, that keeps people engaged. That's newsworthy. That's news about me, my product, and my services. Here's my art. Here's how quickly I can get it done. Here's a look at my process. All of these things are engaging. All of these things look like they're only for companies, but they actually work for you as individual artists as well. All right, that's a lot, but that's our first bullet. Why social media matters, right? Anybody have any questions? Have I not convinced you? Are you still going, no, I'm in this class, but I don't think it's important at all. I don't even know why I signed up. No? All right. Awesome. Well, with that, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about platforms. There's a lot of places to be on the social internet. And the fact of the matter is, even I do not have time to be on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn. And there's a new one that just came out that's called, what's it called? They Space. It's like a MySpace remake that Gen Z is going to fall in love with because they never got the chance to play around on MySpace. There's new stuff all the time. Back in early 2010, Tumblr was important. There's probably artist communities that you're in, things like DeviantArt or Behance, which is Adobe's system. There's all sorts of networks. So how do you choose? How do you decide what it is you really want to do? Well, you just pick one or two. I'll go through a few of my favorites here, and I'll recommend a couple that I think you should focus on. But you're going to have to figure out which two work for you, which two you want to be on your own. And when I say want to be on, I mean, which make the most sense to you, right? Do something easy. Don't do something hard. You don't have to learn how to use every Facebook ad in the world to get good at Facebook if you like being on Facebook. If you're like, I don't want to be on Facebook, there's too much there. I've grown tired of it. The last 4 to 8 years have been hard and I don't feel like being on Facebook anymore. Maybe Instagram is your space. Maybe you're like, I don't want to do anything in that world. I like video content, might be TikTok. You're also going to find communities in your spaces that'll help you decide where you want to be, because ideally with social media, you're doing the social part first and you're talking to them. So here's the deal with Facebook. I took screenshots from some of the spaces in the district and some of the artists that I visit online the most. These are by no means perfect examples. They're just examples to give you an idea of what to look for. And you'll notice I'm going to provide you with the mobile version view of every single one, because everybody gets online on their phone. So even if you feel more comfortable publishing on your desktop or your laptop or your computer, what you need to be thinking about is how it's going to look on a mobile device. So this entire presentation is going to show you a mobile device view. All right, and I'll show you some cool tools on how to make sure your content works on a mobile device. But just so you know, that's why your screenshot looks this big. All right, so Facebook. Facebook is the best places for a brand. I like to refer to Facebook as the internet front door, right? This is the landing mat for how people might get to your website. This is where they're going to learn about where you're located, what your store hours are. You know, even if you work from home and sell from home, there's probably hours that you are around and available to communicate more regularly than there are hours you are not. This is how they're going to learn about events or promotions that you're a part of, gallery shows you might be in or hosting. This is also where people can leave reviews, right? This is just like Yelp used to be, except now it happens on Facebook. There's also access to groups and community spaces. There's access to online stores. Your friends are on Facebook, and your friends are your first channel to a community anywhere on the internet, right? Just like any artist community, you're going to try to sell your art to probably a friend first, because they're more likely to buy it than somebody you've never met before. But at least your friend can introduce you to somebody you've never met before, and you can grow that network out. Cool, making sense? That's the Facebook pitch. So when you're on Facebook, what does that look like? Looks like a couple of things. First, it looks like the front door, which you can see here with my Lant creative space example. You guys can see that mouse, right? And that blue dot. Looks like yes. And I have a question here. It says, can you tell us if you have any recommendations for professionals that manage Facebook profiles for small businesses? Yes, I think I can. So I think I understand your question here, which is where would I go to find someone who could manage my space for me if I don't have the time? Is that your question? And you can come off mute if you'd like, Corey. Yes, we don't have a lot of time to manage it. There are a lot of places you can do this. So first, there's always There's always a couple of options for finding people to manage things like your Facebook account. If you're getting into this and you're going, I don't have the time to do any of this. I would say one, you can hire someone in-house, right? You can put out an ad on Facebook. Facebook has the ability to take job applications. You can ask your friends for millennials they know, and you can come up with an in-house position. And then if you don't want to do that, if you just want to contract out to somebody, there are lots of great sites. I can think of one called Fiverr. I can think of a couple off of some TikTok recommendations, and I can send you a list afterward where you can contract out that work. Here's what I'll say though. Almost all social media can be done by you. Truly, I'm going to give you some tools to help you schedule some stuff out so that you don't spend more than 10 minutes thinking about this in your week, and so that you understand the platform. Because what you don't want to do is go hire somebody who's going to take advantage of your lack of understanding of this stuff and then overcharge you a fortune to post some ads on Facebook and then not actually grow your engagement. If you can be thinking about what little ways can I help to engage, that's going to do more good for you in the long run than anything. Because again, your business is a brand, which means it's not only the job of your brand manager or your social media person to manage your brand. Being able to be online and in those spaces as a voice, as a company leader is equally as important. I do this with, you guys all know Liz Black with 40 West. She's this RED. You don't see me appear in any of our videos on our network because my voice doesn't matter that much. I'm the social media gal. But our community cares about Liz and what she has to say. She carries the torch for our organization. And so she also makes the effort to film videos with me and to think about what we are going to say from a top-down level. And then she gives me instructions on how to post that. But just contracting that work out could be really damaging. So think about, if you're going to find someone to contract with you, how much time and energy they can put into your business and how much time and energy you'd be willing to give them, because they're not going to be able to create excellent content for your art without you fundamentally being there. All right, makes sense? All right, a couple other things that you can do on Facebook, and then I'll run through it so we don't spend all of our time talking about these. First, as you can see in the second example here, we've got Denver artists in the artist group. Anna Copeland just posts what she did this week. Pretty good. It's not perfect. She doesn't explain her art at all. She's not asking friends for feedback. There are things she could be doing to increase her engagement. But what she is doing is constantly showcasing her work in a space where other artists are. This might not lead to a sale, but it may lead to a partnership or an invite from a gallery, etc. Then over here, we have a professional post. So this artist is doing exactly what I was talking about, where some late night brainstorming doodles, and then she's got some cute emojis. And she's showing off her work, not for sale. She's showing off her process. This is super, super key. She's showing, listen, I don't just do this as a business. This is my passion. This is authentically who I am. This is when I was doing it. Take a look. Right? That's genuine. It's real. It's excellent content. She's a great artist. So a not that well put together photo is still just as impactful as a big fancy photo like the next one she has, right? So this is why I use two of her posts, because in a more professional style, she's also sharing her art from companies she works with and letting folks know that it's available for purchase, right? So she's doing two things on this branded Facebook page. She's being her authentic self as a person in charge of her art and in charge of her brand. And she's following up with that, go buy it, right? This is why YouTubers at the end of every video say, thanks for watching, and be sure to like and subscribe and ring that bell for notifications. Because every single time you post online, you should remind people to get involved in what they can do. Not just share and have no call to action, but instead say, here's what I am, here's how you can be a part of it. I think Facebook's really good for that. All right, Twitter. Twitter's different. You're not going to probably sell art on Twitter, but here's what you are going to do on Twitter, right? You can, on Twitter, meet other artists, meet other networks, meet other communities like you. Twitter is really cool with millennials and Gen Zers. Twitter is learning how to pay artists for sponsored ads. They offer video content, and they offer these brilliant profiles. So I have one of my favorite artists here. You can see up in the top, her header shows that she's an artist. Her profile picture is a piece of her art. You can see she has a tweet pinned that says commissions are open. And that photo right there shows all of her prices. This is brilliant because every time she tweets then and somebody goes to her profile, the first thing they see is how to buy art from her. Pretty cool. So here's what some artists are doing on Twitter, and it's a lot of exactly what I just mentioned, which is they're letting you know it's time to buy things, they're sharing news about their art, and they're following other artists. This is where they do a lot of their storytelling. And what every single one of them has in common is they pin something to the top of the tweet that says, here's how you can contact me. Things get lost on news feeds, right? Facebook has pinned posts, but they're not super effective. On Twitter, they're much, much more effective. So Twitter can be kind of a low level win as long as you occasionally tweet about what you're up to and you make sure you are always providing people a way to get to your website. All right. Instagram. Here's the big one that I think everybody likes. Instagram's great because you can showcase your brand right then and there. You can post your art. You can create interesting stories that you share with your followers. You can tag people. You can create interesting hashtags. I'll let that video play again. Instagram designs an aesthetic. If you want to figure out what your brand sounds like, Instagram is probably the first place to do it. It's where you can say, here I am as an artist, here's what we do. So this is a digital artist. She has the ability to sort of just take screenshots and post, but a good quality photo or a good video works here too. So here are some examples. The thing I like about this profile is this artist lets you see her press, her process, her portraits in these stories. She has a link to her website. She tells you exactly who she is and what she does. And then when you actually check out her content, you find that it's really clean. This is her portrait work. Here's some video footage of her portrait work. She's a body painting artist. You get a sense of who she is really fast. Her process, an artist in action. There's nothing people love more than a good video. And video content is not that hard. You can buy a Gorilla tripod for $5. You can set your phone on it, have it record you and upload that. You don't need big editing software or a fancy team like she has to do the things that she is doing. Then you have artists like Kaz. I love Kaz. He's a little bit different. His personal Instagram is also his brand. One of the things that he does is say, I don't need a separate art and a separate personal account. I'm going to show you my art and my family all in one go because my family is intrinsic to my artistic process. He says thank you to businesses that work with him. There's his lovely family, and there's what he's doing, right? This creates another kind of brand, which is I am an artist who might be showing work around the world, but I'm just like you. Here's what inspires me and here's what moves me forward. This is a style that works very, very, very well on platforms like Instagram, and one to consider when you're thinking about what's the difference between my business and myself as a personal brand. How do you upload to Instagram when you have content from a news channel or someone else? That's a great question. So let's say you were featured in a news story by 9 News on their website, right, about one of your art exhibitions. One of the best things that you can do is simply go take a screenshot, have the title of the article appear, have the byline appear, and hopefully if the writer is good, they'll have a photo of your art right in there. You can take a screenshot of that article and you can upload it to your Instagram page and say, check out my latest feature in 9 News, tag 9 News, use some like good hashtags. So you might use like hashtag artist because that's very broad. You might use hashtag press because that's exciting. And then you might use whatever hashtag your art that is featured is about or where it's located, right? Say it was a piece that featured in the 40 West Gallery. Maybe you would tag 40 West in it too. Just a little hint. And then you can take that, upload it on your feed. And then once it's on your feed, click the little paper airplane button and put it on your story. All right, Corey asked, what are my thoughts on broad hashtags versus more specific hashtags? Corey, that's a great question. I'm actually going to answer it in a couple of slides. So let me just keep running through this. Like I said, this will have video. You're welcome to check it out. But I would encourage you to, first and foremost, if you're considering Instagram, go look at other artists' Instagrams. Mimic what they're doing. All right. All right, the scary one, the new one, here's TikTok. Why is TikTok important? TikTok is important for all the same reasons Twitter is important, except that Gen Z is using it more and it's purely video-based content. TikTok is cool because you will get a following that matters to you with that good hashtag use. So on this video, the hashtags that came with it included hashtag glass blowing, hashtag pumpkin, and then a couple of random hashtags from whatever TikTok has deemed most popular on their front page. Yeah, this is one of the wildest parts about TikTok is you kind of can just use whatever hashtag. It doesn't have to be related to your art or your process at all. The idea with TikTok hashtags, while the system is new, and is that a lot of creators are just using hashtags people are looking at, and they're not so concerned with whether those hashtags are relevant to their art. All right, let me show you a few TikToks though to give you some ideas for video content. All of these are done in 15 to 60 seconds with one tripod and one light. When this man posted this TikTok, he captioned it, "Trust the process." That was it, a little tiny piece of advice. It had 4.4 million views. This TikTok, peeling my paint in quarantine, is an ASMR video. Now, I didn't include sound because I didn't want to blow out anybody's eardrums, but she put a microphone really close to this and then was silent for the whole video. So you could just hear the sound of paint popping off of this board. Huh, that's not anything to do with her art, but I like ASMR. I might come back for it. This artist gives advice. She talks about, listen, here's my process and here's how you can relate to me. She says, make ugly art. It's okay. We're all learning how to do this together. She's engaging in a conversation, I'm sure as practice artists, you have all heard, which is that art is really hard. Sharing it can be very, very nerve-wracking. Doing it anyway is what matters. And when she did this, she got 6.4 million views for it. Why? Because repeating things people know are true and sharing the honest struggle can be one of the most effective forms of communication on the social internet. And here's the thing, she's saying make ugly art and is a very good artist. She's not saying she makes ugly art now. She's saying, I got this good because I wasn't afraid of that. I'm sure as artists, you have similar stories and pieces of advice to share. Consider that when you're looking for types of content to create. Finally, this one. Her audience, she said, hey audience, give me some emojis and I'll make a piece of art inspired by the emojis. This person said these colored hearts. She put this video sped up to a cool sound for 60 seconds and it got 4.8 million views. Most TikToks that go viral, as you can see, average around 4 million-ish. If they get higher than that, they're doing some other crazy stuff. But all of these are 60 seconds or less, and all of them probably only took 10 minutes. Except for this one, of course. She had to create this whole piece from scratch. All right. So those are some platforms. I don't know if you could tell, I'm a little bit biased toward TikTok and Instagram. I think they're the best place for artists to get started, but you have some options to go figure out what's important for you. And most importantly, you now understand a little bit more about what your audience is looking for in terms of your content. Think about who they are, what they're talking about. Sometimes you're speaking to other artists, right? When you're on Facebook and you're in those Denver artist groups and you're posting images of your work or you're doing a train follow, which by the way, I don't recommend doing, they're not useful. You're talking to other artists. You're not really talking to buyers of art. Buyers of art are not usually in artist groups on Facebook. They're in gallery spaces. But your buyers might be on TikTok talking about their experience in a gallery. And you can say, well, here's what I did. Buyers might be saying, well, I don't really know that much about art, but I love watching the way paint moves across a canvas. Okay, appeal to them by just showing that. Instead of a completed work, just show them how you use a brush. Carolyn asked, when we post on Insta, can we share to Facebook? Yes, you can. And here is the thing. I will also provide you a list of free tools to schedule your posts in advance across multiple platforms with one caveat, which is your audience on Facebook is not your audience on Instagram, even if it's the same people. When you are on Instagram, and you guys might know this, if you get on Instagram and you practice paying attention to how you use the platform, you scroll fairly quickly, you look for the thing that catches your eye, you hit like. If you really like it, you might write a comment, but you probably won't. If you really, really like it, you might send it to a friend, and then you'll go check your stories. and you might watch the first 2 or 3 stories, and chances are you don't watch all 15 seconds of every video that's published. Chances are you click through kind of quickly. Why? Because we as humans are hardwired to understand what is valuable to us very quickly. So within the first frame of a video, you're going to know whether or not that's important to you. Your audience on Facebook is trying to read. Facebook's all about text. Images might be important, but what images do the best? Ones that are just a giant piece of text, right? A funny internet meme, a cute anecdote, an interesting video that has big subtitles across it. So although you can schedule posts to go out across multiple platforms, all of your posts should be designed specifically for the platform they are a part of. So yes, but also careful with that. All right, here's some techniques. This is a lot of text. I'm not going to read all of it. Just know it's important. This is probably that hard data some of you guys are looking for about how often to post, how often people look at your content, etc. But it's a lot to get into. All right. So this is a ton of information. There's a lot of questions. There's some good questions coming in. I've thrown a ton at you about why social media matters, what your brand is, how to start thinking about that, how to start thinking where on the social internet you want to be. And now you're going, okay, I have all that in order, but I don't know how to do it. That's okay. First steps to analyze. Take a look at what you're currently doing, and then take a look at people you like and start mimicking them. Social media is not about ultimate originality. In fact, TikTok and platforms like that are designed for copying. See stuff you like, see types of captions that you found interesting, and start posting them yourself and thinking about how you want to use them in your own brand. Then plan it out. I'm not talking huge content calendars for a year of what you want to accomplish. I'm saying goals you can achieve. This week, I'd like to post 2 TikToks, or this month, I'd like to post 2 TikToks. I want the first TikTok to explain who I am as an artist, and the second TikTok to show one of my pieces in progress. Right? Set a goal you can achieve. Post those 2 and see how they go. Mimi asks, your art style all over the place. Do you think branding can still work? Absolutely. So if you have lots and lots of different kinds of art you do, now I don't know what you do, Mimi, but let's say you do digital art, but you also maybe do watercolor. Let's say sometimes your work is very dark in its themes or tones, and then sometimes you create large flower murals, right? Let's say you do everything. Sometimes it's sculpture pieces, and then occasionally you're knitting or sewing. Totally fine. That's who you are. I would say when you're considering what your brand is, then consider who you are as the artist first and not what the art is, right? If all of your art is digital art focused on a cause, like say Black Lives Matter, probably your brand is around equity and inclusion, right? But if your art can be about anything you're going through at any time, expressing your point of view of the world through whatever medium you choose, you are your brand. And you have a specific way you approach people. You have a specific way you talk to the world. You have a specific point of view from your stories that have shaped your life that can become a part of your brand. Like my brand, personally, as Katie, and not as 40 West, but as Katie, is K-pop. I spent my entire film career in school figuring out how to make awesome videos so that I could make awesome videos in Korea. I never ended up doing that, but I'm an expert at it. When people want to talk to me online, they want me to tell them about their favorite K-pop artists. And I will always present myself as an expert on that. The next thing they want me to talk to them about is how to market themselves. And I'm an expert on that. I do that and I brand that by making sure that in every single piece of content that I provide those people, I give them a call to action about how they can contact me. And I give them a little tip on what they could do. So for example, like if one of my friends comes to me and they're like, listen, I see you posting, K-pop news online, and I want to start posting K-pop news online, but I don't know what to do. How did you figure out who you were as an artist and a writer in that space? I'll say, well, I started with lists. 15 ways X K-pop group reminds me of my favorite spaghetti. They were like, what? You do what? No, yeah, that's what I did. I wrote lists. And because those were so funny and people liked them so much, they came to be more. So when I started writing more serious content, it was a shift and it was hard, but it became a brand of somebody who is knowledgeable and funny and passionate. And those are my brand labels: knowledgeable, funny, because I am funny, and passionate. But that's on me as a person and less on my writing now. Does that make sense? Awesome. So when you're doing this and where you're thinking about how to get started, you might not have the words for your brand immediately, and that's totally okay. You can explore and change these things over time. But it's definitely going to take some self-reflection and writing down, what words do I like? What do I want to showcase? What does my art speak to? Those kinds of introspective questions that will help define your brand, because your brand is a lot more than a logo or whatever font you pick. Does that help? All right. So once you do that and you go through this really hard, recurring, intensive process, your brand will always change. It'll always grow with you. You're not going to nail it the first try, and you're not going to have it down in 40 years. The only brand that knows what they're doing that direction is Coca-Cola. And you all know that because Coca-Cola doesn't sell you Coke, they sell you a feeling. We're not all Coke marketers here. It's okay. But once you have a little bit of an idea of how to do that and you set a plan or some goals, I'm going to make 2 videos. I'm going to post them on TikTok. Make them. You're an artist. That's the brilliant thing about this, is you do not have to go teach yourself a million skills about how to create art. You know how to make art. So make what you can. Do your best to take a good photo. Do your best to, ask a niece, a nephew, a grandchild, a friend to help you film one if you're not sure if you're really, really good at holding a camera stable, or you get nervous that you're going to record something and it's not going to be facing the right way. Get a friend to help and start publishing it. Start experimenting. What captions work? What hashtags work? What kind of content does my audience like? When is my audience around? Here's a hint: your audience is around on Thursday between 1 and 4 p.m. And you know how I know that? Because Thursdays around 1 and 4 p.m., I get exhausted from my 9-to-5 job. And I absolutely, after lunch, open Facebook just for a minute, just to check. Chances are you do too. In fact, most of the world does. In fact, there's a lot of good data that says Thursdays between 1 and 4 p.m. are a great time to publish on social media. But you will find that your audience, as they grow, may be available at different times. And Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, they all have ways to measure that are just a button on the page where you can see that kind of information. Start using it, right? Optimize. Review what you're doing every time you do it, every couple months. See what works and what doesn't. See what you liked making, what you didn't like making. Because if something works, but it took you 10 hours to create a piece of marketing content, but it was, it dug into your business time, it dug into your personal time, it took too much out of you, maybe it's not what you need to be doing, even if it gets you 1 million views. Because chances are viral content does not create good, lasting content. So optimizing about asking yourself what you like to do as a marketer, as an artist in this field, in order to showcase and share your art in your field. All right, cool, makes sense. We're looking good on time. So with that, I'll just say this. Social media is about creating communities and not markets. If your goal online is to sell, you're never going to sell anything. It's called social media because it is social first and media second. Your main goal on the social internet should be sharing and talking and communicating, responding to comments, talking to other people about what they're doing, giving feedback. If you have TikTok, I recommend downloading it and checking out the Washington Post. Yes, the newspaper, the Washington Post. Why? Because the man who runs the Washington Post TikTok account understands the idea of social better than anyone I've ever seen. Why? Because he's the first comment on every single video that ends up on my page, even if it has nothing to do with the Washington Post. Nothing. Somebody will be like, this is a really, really cool video of somebody eating spaghetti. And I'll go to the comment section and the Washington Post will have commented, nice spaghetti video, dude. They understand that it's social first. You're going to be engaging lots of communities across lots of things to get them involved with you. If they like you, they'll buy your work. And you're all perfectly likable. All right. So I'll leave this up for a minute here, but I'll also give it to you in a minute. Let's get to a few more questions and have a conversation. So, Corey, I'm going to answer that hashtag question a little bit more specifically. So I have a pretty good rule of thumb for hashtags broad, specific, and number. There is a lot of conflicting data out there about whether more hashtags is better or worse. And it changes all the time, and it changes based on platform. But I tend to think using 3 to 4 hashtags is the way to do it. I think 2 of your hashtags should be broad and 1 of them should be specific, but on a sliding scale. So if I post something on the 40 West Arts account that's an image, I'm going to use 3 hashtags immediately. First, explore out outside, because if I'm posting on the 40 West Instagram account, I'm probably posting a picture of the art line, and the art line's hashtag is explore out art outside. The second hashtag I'm going to use is art line. The third hashtag I'm going to use is outside, because art, the outdoors, and us are all captured in those 3 hashtags. Does that make sense? All right, then let's see. I think that's all the questions. Have I missed any questions? And then does anyone want to, I'm going to stop sharing here. Have you guys come talk to me? We have about 15 minutes left. So I'd love any questions you have, or if anyone wants to get brave and show me their social media accounts, I would be happy to look at a post and give you direct advice on how I'd maybe modify it or upgrade it. So we have a question. Can you speak more on ROI for the amount of time needed to build up an audience? Yes, I can. So this is a great question, and definitely not something I touched on, which is that gaining an audience online takes a long time. Doing things like follow trains or just dropping your Instagram account is not worth it. Follow for follow or following people back is not worth it, because it doesn't matter how many followers you have if your followers are not engaged with you. So if you spend 10 minutes a day commenting, right? Say, okay, I'm going to focus on social media. I'm going to give myself a half hour every day to focus on social media because that's what I have time for. Then I'm going to spend 10 minutes not doing anything related to my page at all. I'm just going to go through and talk to artists I know, respond to companies I like, make sure I'm checking out the galleries I'm involved with and commenting on their posts and sharing their content. And then I'm going to spend 10 minutes making sure that whatever I have scheduled to go out, is publishing, right? Okay, is Twitter published? Great. Is Facebook published? Great. Is Instagram published? Great. And then I'm going to take 10 minutes and respond to my comments. Every person who responds to me, I will reply to directly on Instagram. If you can respond within an hour, that's a really good idea. Every like, I'm going to make sure I invite that person to follow my page. If they share my content, I'm going to send them a message that says, thank you for sharing my content. And over time, you'll gain an audience. This is a slow, months on years process. Just like any kind of marketing, it is about showcasing who you are first and building a repertoire with your community that is trustworthy and viable. I know that's not a perfect direct answer, but does that help?
I have a question, Katie.
Yeah, what's up?
So going back to Instagram, and you might have touched on this, the difference between the story, and then just posting that in the feed, and how do you use the 2 ways?
That's a great question. So I would say your Instagram feed, right, just where you normally probably only post a picture versus a video, is becoming less and less relevant. People spend a lot less time scrolling down their feeds, which means when you are thinking about what to publish to a feed, which you should still be thinking about publishing about, there's no reason to stop. You should be thinking about making sure your most engaging content is there first. So beautiful images of completed works or big news announcements or things like that should go into your feed, because people will get used to seeing that, and then they will expect it to be higher and higher up in their news feed the more often they engage with it. So the more engaging it can get, the more things they have to learn about it, the more they can click on it, the more likely it will appear at the top of their page. Your stories are a little bit different. It is a good idea to always have a story published. Every story lasts 24 hours, which is great, but your story should never have nothing on it. And generally, stories should be about 3 panels long, right? Usually when I want to see what somebody's doing, I'll click on it, I'll watch about 5 seconds, I'll click on it again. I might look at the first frame and then I'll click on it again. And if that last frame still isn't engaging, I leave. So I would consider your stories to be 1, informational, right? So give me something to stay for. 2, video. And 3, captioned, because no one has their sound on. What else? How do you actually sell via Instagram? Melody, so you can create an Instagram account as a business. And then once your business hits a certain amount of followers, you gain access to other features on Instagram, including their business profiles, which can help you set up a store. Often it is connected to your own store, but it essentially gives you the ability to tag products and say, this is how much it costs. And the buyer can buy straight from there, usually with a credit card or PayPal. This is a really good idea if you don't have a website, but if you're just starting out, becoming a seller on Instagram might not actually be the best path for you. Instead, building a brand identity might be a better path. And then moving people to your website to purchase may be easier, or even better, moving people to your newsletter and then selling to them through a newsletter may be the better option there if you don't have the follower account to get that kind of access. Usually it's about 2,000 followers. Same thing, your stories, you have 10,000 followers, you can get a link in your story, but otherwise directing people to the link in the bio is often a good way to do it. That's still what 40 West is doing. You know, your bio doesn't have to be static. It is also a marketing space that you can change the links in. When does building an audience translate into sales? Well, the good news is it can start kind of simultaneously, but generally, if you're going to try and make a sale, you need to invest in that user. So when you see say you post a process shot and you have a user that says, oh my gosh, I'm just absolutely in love with this, I can't wait to see the finished piece. Write that user down so that when you post the finished piece, you can send it to them and say, here's the completed work. That may result in a sale immediately. And it, business 101, it always costs a lot less money to get somebody to buy a second time than it does to buy the first time. So I would say when you're thinking about, okay, here's my community, here's my audience, here's who I'm speaking to, how do I get them to actually buy merchandise? Start cultivating relationships with the most engaged users and stay there, because they will eventually become your brand advocates. Right? We got people to come to First Friday and they loved it. And so they told their friends about it. And then their friends came to First Friday and that friend bought art. Same thing on the internet. Just requires a little more work. It's good to create a list of usernames and to know who your audience is. If you have the ability to track that information, do. I feel there's a lot of repetition in what I do in my studio. I love what I do, but I don't want to show the same thing with every post. That's a great, so Corey, this is a good idea, right? You don't want to show the same thing. My process is the same every time. My studio maybe is, not what I'd like it to look like for the internet. What do I do? Well, that's when I would go back to, well, what do you want your brand to be? Is your studio your brand or is your art your brand? Because close-ups of your art in action are always engaging, even if the process is the same, right? Because the product is different at the end, right? Maybe you create a video for once that just shows a really close-up vision of a step in your process. If you're glass blower, maybe it's just the first couple of steps and you don't show them the final product until the next post. Maybe instead, the next post, you show just the final product and you show it 360. You move a camera all the way around it. Maybe in the next post after that, you talk about how you became interested in this kind of art, who you are as the artist. And then, of course, understanding that this is what happens forever, right? Coca-Cola has been selling us the same drink forever. They just talk about it in different ways, even though it doesn't really change. So continuing to think about, how do I share a story? And then how do I share the same story again, visually differently, audio different, Is this a photo? Is this a photo series? Is this a close-up or a wide shot? What part of the story am I telling? What part of me am I telling? Those are all engaging. Every piece you create has a different story. It inspired you in different ways, even if it was a commission. That's always something to talk about. What are my thoughts on Instagram giveaways? Don't do them. Don't do them. If you feel like you have to give away something in order to get something, probably you're not doing enough groundwork to engage with your audience, right? Here's a better idea: art swaps. I see young folks, especially in fandom communities who do fan art, do this all the time, where they work with another artist to both create the same work of art, but in their own styles. And then they give it to each other. And then they get on Instagram and they say, hey, I worked with this artist on this art swap. We both created a vase. Here was my interpretation that was gifted to me by them. If you want to see what I created, go check out their page and they'll talk to you about it. That's how you share communities across things. And that's how you create two sets of engaged audience sharing with each other. Giving something away might get one person very excited, but chances are you're going to put a lot more into it than you're going to get back from them, especially on the internet. Giveaways in person are awesome. You already had to bring that person into your space and they wanted to be there. And when they won something, they felt good and they thought, I'm going to come back. But on the internet, they don't have to come back. So the likelihood that you're going to give something away to a user who is going to become an advocate for your brand is a lot lower. I see we're running out of time. We only got 3 minutes. Do we have any more questions? Does anyone have anything they want to share about something that's worked for them or something that they noticed definitely failed? Because the thing about the internet is you're absolutely allowed to fail. Not everything you post is going to be a success every time, and that's completely okay. Anything? Nothing? All right, then I will try and stick to my goal of getting you out. Yep, video content gets way more views and click-throughs. Absolutely. Content is king. Video is the king of content. It is just like this. Don't feel like you have to turn your camera. Don't think you need editing software. I will send you a list of free editing softwares. You absolutely are a filmmaker. If I can go to film school and not make any movies and become a filmmaker, you absolutely can too. I will send you guys a follow-up so you can review me in a little survey, tell me about how I did and how I can do better. And I will send you links to everything I've discussed today and links to everything I didn't discuss today that you may have more questions on. And of course, if you need me, feel free to reach out to 40 West, and I will see you guys on the social internet. Have a good one.
Thank you.